Well, I think we should probably get used to a few of these emergency live streams over the next few weeks, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to beat around the bush, I'm just going to keep it a buck. We are in a situation where things are changing rapidly, where things are happening very, very quickly. This time, 24 hours ago, Brendan Rodgers was Celtic manager, and there was no doubt in my mind that Brendan Rodgers would continue to be Celtic manager. 24 hours later, Brendan Rodgers is gone, and not only is he gone, but Celtic have appointed 73-year-old Martin O'Neill as the interim manager of the club until a permanent decision has been made and before we appoint a permanent manager. As I would say with anybody who becomes Celtic manager, no matter the circumstance or no matter the person, I will rally behind them. And I actually feel kind of fortunate now at the age of 25, I'm getting the opportunity to see Martin O'Neill manage a Celtic side. Today at 3:30, in the next 10 minutes, Martin O'Neill will speak to the press. Martin O'Neill will be speaking live to the cameras, to the journalists. It will be broadcast on Sky Sports News at 3:30. I'm going to be reacting to it live. I will be reacting to Martin O'Neill's press conference live. And not only do we have Martin O'Neill's press conference to react to, but the Celtic Fans Collective have announced the next step in protesting the board, with the first protest outside Celtic Park planned for tomorrow night. And before we get into that 3:30, we're going to talk about that in a moment. Listen, Martin O'Neill's age isn't a problem in my eyes. He's been brought in to do a job, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with that job, and I will certainly back him. But this is just, you cannot avoid the conversation of it being comical. Not to be ageist, not to be disrespectful to an absolute legend, but the fact that we are in a situation where we're having to turn to a guy who should be happily in his retirement to dig us out of a hole because of what's happened at this club is absolutely embarrassing, and no way. No angle can cover it better than that, I don't think. But I am going to back him, and I hope he wins tomorrow night. I hope he wins on Sunday. Listen, we'll talk about Martin O'Neill in a few moments, because we have got big news, as I said, coming from the Celtic Fans Collective, and planned protests for outside Celtic Park tomorrow night. And I do want to get through this statement as, of course, somebody who is part of the Celtic Fans Collective, a signatory of the initial letter by the Celtic Fans Collective. We've all been talking about what kind of action can possibly force change at this football club. And of course, once again, I reiterate the point that not all action will be unanimously backed by every single Celtic supporter, because that's just impossible. That is impossible by any metric, by any understanding. That is just not possible. However, the next step has been spoke about, literally released 4 minutes ago. The Celtic Fans Collective sack the board from Wednesday 7 p.m. tomorrow night before the game. Yesterday, Celtic and I'm just going to read the statement verbatim before we get to Martin O'Neill's press conference, which is scheduled to start at 3:30. Celtic Fans Collective put out this statement a few moments ago. Yesterday, Celtic Football Club confirmed that Brendan is the mic low for people? I've tried turning it up a little bit there. I don't know. Let me know if the microphone's okay for everybody. I'm going to start reading through the statement anyway. I have tried turning it up a little bit. I don't want to make it like it's popping in all your ears. Yesterday, Celtic Football Club confirmed that Brendan Rodgers had left his position as manager. The signs of decline have been evident since the summer, and this crisis has come as a direct result of a clear absence of planning and the latest poorly executed transfer window. Supporters hold differing views on Rodgers, but regardless of how anyone feels about our former manager, the ultimate responsibility for our current position lies with the board, who appointed, reappointed and managed the manager, as well as holding responsibility for all other operational matters. With conflicting accounts now in the public domain about what happened in the summer, it is difficult to reach a full conclusion about specific dealings. But we do know the following to be true. Only weeks ago, the chief executive assured the Celtic Fans Collective that the club did not accept there is a disconnect between the board and the manager, which has now been directly contradicted by the principal shareholder in a statement hosted on the club's official platform. Number 2, the board declined to investigate a leak to the Sun newspaper, which accused the manager of behaviours that the principal shareholder has now also aired in public. And number 3, the principal shareholder has insisted that every pound generated by the club is invested into its success, despite the large sums the club holds in the bank. With these points in mind, it is understandable that for many fans, their trust in club communications has completely broken. It is also important to note that Dermot Desmond, by releasing his own statement before the chief executive had made any comment, has publicly undermined him and made it clear that he alone holds power over Celtic Football Club. Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay and the rest of the board have shown they lack the strength or independence to stand up to Dermot Desmond. They are incapable of developing and executing a strategy that will allow Celtic to reach its potential and have repeatedly let down both the manager and the supporters. We invite and encourage all Celtic fans to join us outside the main stand from 7 p.m. tomorrow to send a clear message. It is time for them to go. And of course, I'm not a part of the hierarchy within the Celtic Fans Collective. I'm not part of the steering group. I'm not part of the group that write these very well written statements, I should say. But what I will say is it is a perfect summary of everything that's gone wrong over the past 24 hours. There is still, I'm going to be ruthless again in my assessment of the situation. If you are on the side of Dermot Desmond or any of his cronies that are clearly taking you for ransom with their power at Celtic Football Club, you need to have a serious look at yourself in the mirror. There is a smoothness in the brain if you are deciding to sign with a guy who is lying to you, who is literally lying. I don't like liars. I don't like liars in any walk of life. I don't like liars in personal business. I don't like liars in actual business. And I don't like liars running my football club. We were told to their faces there was no problems between the manager and the board at a meeting a few weeks ago at Celtic Park. It was contradicted. We were told that the manager has every say over transfers, which has been contradicted a number of times. We were told that all these different things were fine, and they weren't. We have been lied to time and time and time and time again, and it is time for the liars to go. No liar should be running Celtic Football Club, especially not one who isn't the owner of Celtic Football Club, who isn't the majority shareholder of Celtic Football Club. I would love to give a massive shout out to Paul John Dykes, who was on Sky Sports this morning and was fantastic when being interviewed about the situation. He put it better than I ever could, and I encourage you to go and find it. It is on the Sky Sports Football YouTube channel, and you can go and listen to what he had to say. We will return to this. However, I am aware that the Celtic press conference is due to begin any moment now. For anybody who's wondering where they can watch the press conference themselves, it is supposed to be aired on Sky Sports at 3:30. We're obviously approaching 3:30 right now, so I'm going to get my stream up. I can't play the stream to you. Can I make this perfectly clear right now? I am not allowed to play that stream for you. I would get the channel stricken by copyright laws, and I would lose control of this live stream very, very quickly. What I can do is play some audio in the background that you might or might not hear while I react to the live stream, while I give my opinions of what's being said in the live stream. And I will try and do that. So I have got it playing in the background behind me. I will give you a rundown of what is said as we wait for Martin O'Neill to approach the bench, almost. But just to quickly recap on everything that is happening this afternoon, the Celtic Fans Collective have issued a statement for a protest outside the main stand at 7 o'clock. And I will be there tomorrow night. I will be at the game, and I will also be at the protest outside Celtic Park. I encourage everybody who will be at tomorrow night's game to get there early and to get there at 7 o'clock to protest this board, to make your thoughts perfectly clear. I think we need numbers that we haven't seen before outside the Celtic Park main stand. And I know it might be cold, and I know it might be wet, and I know it might not be ideal. But this is big, and I would encourage every supporter to join in on that. We are also now waiting for the 3:30, and I'm not going to sit and say this time and time again. If you don't hear me, then tough titty. 3:30, Sky Sports News. That's where you can watch along with Martin O'Neill's press conference. We will be expecting him any moment now. I'm waiting for him in my stream, which I have in front of me, and I will give a rundown on everything that is said by Martin O'Neill. I will give my opinions. And of course, I think we're all eagerly awaiting to see if Martin O'Neill gives away any inside information in regards to the situation yesterday. What we do know is that Martin O'Neill has already been on TalkSport this afternoon / this morning and given a kind of first glimpse interview into what's happened, what they've got the first exclusive. There is some brief points to take from that TalkSport appearance this afternoon by Martin O'Neill. What seems to be the case is, number one, he has no intentions of being here on a permanent basis and says that he thinks Celtic will be looking for a younger candidate to take on the job permanently. Number two, he said that process has started and the work is beginning behind the scenes. And finally, number three, the point I was going to make has completely slipped my head now. Yeah, it's gone. Martin O'Neill done that with TalkSport this afternoon. We are going live onto Sky now, and I'm waiting to see Martin O'Neill. And here we are. We have the room in front of us now. We're waiting on Martin O'Neill to sit down on the chair. Sky Sports are covering it live on Sky Sports News. You can watch along with that. It will be both Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney, by the way. For the avoidance of doubt, it will be both them. It will be both of them. There's also big news this afternoon that came out that Mark Fotheringham, by the way, just in case you've missed this, Mark Fotheringham is now part of the temporary coaching staff at Celtic. Of course, Mark Fotheringham, formerly a Celtic player in the late 90s, early 2000s, formerly head coach at Huddersfield and enjoyed spells as a coach at Hertha Berlin and a couple of other places around Germany. He is here on a temporary basis, we understand, and will join the coaching team alongside Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney, Stevie Woods and Gavin Strachan. So yesterday we had it confirmed that, of course, alongside Brendan Rodgers, John Kennedy has departed the club, Driscoll has departed the club, Glenn Driscoll, and of course a couple of others as well, Adam Sadler, for example. So there is a lot happening, there is a lot of movement, we can only keep up. There has also been articles published this afternoon surrounding names being linked with the job. Sky Sports and Stephen McGowan are now subsequently reporting that Kieran McKenna is emerging as one of the favourites for the job. He is ideally who I want as Celtic manager, and I've made that clear for months now here, but that is not to say he is the favourite or he is getting the job. He is one of several names that are looked at as top candidates for the Celtic job. Just a reminder, Kieran McKenna has rejected other jobs in the past. Apparently he rejected Brighton back when Fabian Hutzler was given the job. Apparently, and this was reported at the time, he rejected an interview at Chelsea when they were looking for a new manager, and he is on a very lucrative, very expensive contract currently with Ipswich. I think it would take a massive amount of movement and ambition for Celtic to go and get Kieran McKenna, and I think that I would love Kieran McKenna. So are they broadcasting it on YouTube as well, I'm seeing? So I'm seeing Noah in the chat, saying that Sky, that in case anybody hasn't got Sky Sports News in front of them, or if they're using the internet, apparently STV News, I'll confirm this for you now, apparently STV News are broadcast. Yes, you can also watch on STV News YouTube channel. You can go over there, and I am now going to switch to that actually, and I'm going to try and bring in some desktop audio if need be. And I'll be able to play it a bit better, a bit clearer in the background for us all to listen to at the same time. You can listen, just to make it clear, Sky Sports News on satellite, or you can go over to the STV News YouTube channel. They will be broadcasting it in the coming minutes. We are still awaiting Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney to enter the room at the Celtic Park press, or I think it's at Celtic Park press conference room. So yeah, listen, it's a busy afternoon, and I will stay here throughout the entirety of the press conference, and I will stay afterwards to discuss it live. We have over 900 live viewers, so thank you for that. Please, if you could, go down below, hit like, hit subscribe. There is going to be a lot of emergency live streams over the next few weeks. Trust me to have a midweek wedding on Thursday when something like this is happening. I'm out of commission on Thursday. All day I'll be gone, I'll be away. And it's absolutely nuts, to be quite honest. It's I can't believe the timing of certain things. We are here, and we will. I can't show it, just to make it clear. I know people are going to keep asking this. I can't show the press conference. I don't have the rights to do that. I would get my channel struck by copyright. I cannot show it. So while we wait on Martin O'Neill, feel free to get some questions and some points in about everything that's happened. What a whirlwind 24 hours it's been at Celtic Football Club. And it's crazy to think that this is where we're sitting. If you told me at 3:30 yesterday afternoon that 3:30 today I would be doing something like this, I would have laughed at you. Will I be at the protests on Wednesday? Yes, I will. And just as a reminder to everybody that might be joining in late, there are planned protests for Celtic Park, outside Celtic Park, Wednesday, 7 p.m. This is a very, very good statement, and I can't make it clear enough. Go and read it. Go and look at exactly what they're saying. Go and look at the lies you have been fed by the Celtic hierarchy, by Dermot Desmond, by Michael Nicholson and Peter Lawwell, Chris Mackay and everybody else. Read this statement and get to Celtic Park at 7 o'clock on Wednesday and make your feelings known. No matter your opinions on the former manager, the current interim manager, or whoever the next manager might be, no matter what your opinions of all of that is, get to Celtic Park if you can on Wednesday. I encourage everybody to go, so keep that in mind, that is happening. We are waiting, as I said, on Martin O'Neill to take centre stage at Celtic Park, and as soon as that happens, we will get to it. So yeah, Martin O'Neill, we're waiting on him to get here. Crazy, in the year 2025, I cannot believe that Martin O'Neill is going to be doing a press conference as Celtic manager. That is absolutely just a nut sentence to say in itself. Absolutely crazy. And I hope it works out for him on this short-term basis. You would assume, naturally, I think my immediate presumptions are this. I think that Martin O'Neill will likely be in charge until the next international break. I think that he probably stays here until that break in November. And then we probably make an appointment in that break. However, I raised this point to my dad earlier, and I'm like, what happens if he wins on Sunday? You know, what happens if Martin O'Neill wins on Sunday? Do you give him the cup final? Do you go down the route of let's not make a managerial change ahead of a final and give Martin O'Neill the chance to add another one to his already incredible Celtic trophy cabinet? Or do you just say, fuck sentimentality, get the new guy in? It's going to be a really, really weird one. And that's if we win on Sunday. You know, there's no guarantee or anything like that Sunday is a win for Celtic by any stretch of the imagination. So, you know, we have a lot to talk about and think about over the next few weeks that we're only scratching the surface with right now, ladies and gentlemen. We are only scratching the surface with it all. There is so much to consider and so much to think about, and so much will change over these next few weeks depending on the managerial candidate that is chosen. I would say this, Martin O'Neill will speak in this press conference this afternoon, and we hear him on that. I see a lot of talk about Ange in the chat, and of course I would welcome back Ange in a heartbeat. He's not my first choice, but I would welcome him back in a heartbeat. However, one of the interesting quotes by Martin O'Neill this afternoon, and I don't know if it was him just making a presumption more than anything, one of the more interesting quotes from Martin O'Neill this afternoon on TalkSport was that he assumes Celtic are looking for a younger candidate. Now, I'm not going to make a meal out of that because I don't think that it's a quote that carries that much weight. But what I would say is, if Martin O'Neill has been told that the club are looking for a younger candidate, I think that would rule 61, 62-year-old Ange Postecoglou out of the running. But that is not for me to suggest. That's not for me to speculate. I'm just saying that if it's the case, if there is any real weight in the comment of a younger manager, I don't think it'll be Martin O'Neill. Or sorry, not Ange Postecoglou. Or is Ange Postecoglou still a young man in the eyes of Martin O'Neill? There's nothing really to take in that. It was my only real takeaway from. If you're looking for hints, that's the only hint that I would have taken from this afternoon. So yeah, look, not much there to read into. We're still waiting for them to get to the room. I've been at many a Celtic press conference now, and these things never run on time. We could be waiting a while for Martin O'Neill to sit down and talk to the fans, talk to the press. That's just how it works. So I'm relying on STV News to get going here. I'm rapidly checking my phone as well just to make sure I don't miss anything. We'll run through some comments while we wait for now. The presser, Celtic World Order, it's good to see you. Yeah, the presser we'll be waiting until about 4:30 for the presser. Watch this. let's keep going. Martin is older than the Pope. He is, and he does look great. He does look great for 72. Very fit guy, Martin O'Neill. He's looked after himself, and I think that's admirable, to say the least. Noah Redmond saying that O'Neill should be involved in the process, in my opinion. Look, listen, I don't disagree with the sentiment of what you're saying. I just don't think that Martin O'Neill... I'm not saying he shouldn't be involved, but I mean, I don't think he has. He's been gone from the club for 20 years, so I don't think necessarily he needs to be involved in the process either. But once again, I don't trust this board and this band of crooks to run this football club and to make the right decisions. So on that regard, Noah, I probably do agree that he should maybe have a bit of a say, or at least help in the process. But I don't think he will. I don't think he will. If you're just looking for my honest assessment on it, I don't think that he will change anything. Keep your points coming through as we wait for Martin O'Neill to take to the press conference desk. O'Neill for director of football, says Atrocity. We have been talking about a director of football for a long time. We still haven't got a director of football. Would Martin O'Neill be a sensible director of football? You know. Swigs Talks Football says a young manager that could be good would be Gary O'Neill, as he is out of work. Thoughts? Listen, I think Gary O'Neill, by all accounts, is a pretty good coach. I've seen evidence of that. I think he's a good coach. Do I think he's Celtic manager calibre yet? No. I would be pretty underwhelmed with Gary O'Neill. But what I will say is there is a lot worse out there. There is a lot worse. But I wouldn't be going for Gary O'Neill personally. We're seeing Marco Rose or Knutson. I've seen a lot of Knutson chats in there. Mark, I'm not ignoring. It's very difficult to keep going with a chat that's got 990 people in it, Mark, son. Listen, I'll get to comments when I get to comments. I'm not this channel. I always bring up people that disagree with me. You know, and that's always going to be the case. It always has been the case. It's a very fast chat, mate. It's difficult on this end. It's hard to host one of these live streams. It's not easy when the chat is flying by. Marco Rose or Knutson, listen, let me make one thing clear about Knutson right now. And I don't even want to entertain it because I don't think that there is a world where Knutson is available for Celtic. But if Knutson was to say yes, he is by far, clearly, the number one candidate for this job. I think that you need to get him if he says, I want that job. If he wants Celtic, you go and get him. There is absolutely no doubt about that. However, I don't think Knutson would want Celtic. And that's why I don't mention Knutson that much. That's why I don't talk about Knutson that much. Because I don't think he wants Celtic. He's knocked back jobs like Ajax in the past. And I know it's different this time because his contract is running out. But he has done remarkable things that have taken the European football world by storm. He will be on the eyes of bigger clubs than Celtic. Or at least modern day bigger clubs. Celtic are we're one of the biggest in Europe. It's harder to find bigger clubs than Celtic. But in this day and age, there will be teams eyeing him up already. And I just think that he is out of reach for Celtic. But let me make it clear. If he wants the Celtic job, 100% he has to be the top candidate for me. There is no doubt about that. However, if I'm going to be more realistic... Oh, no, of course, Mark, I agree. You don't ask, you don't get, and they should certainly be picking up the phone and phoning him. If he turns around and says no, cool. If I'm going down the realms of a more realistic possibility, a more realistic appointment, I've made it clear, and I'm going to sound like a broken record by the time this stream is done, I know that for a fact. Kieran McKenna is who I want. I have been a big fan of Kieran McKenna since his days at Manchester United. And the things I heard about him there. And I think he's done a remarkable job at Ipswich. A lot of people will point to where Ipswich are sitting right now in the English Championship and cite that as a reason why he shouldn't get the job. He is realistically a couple of wins away from being back up in the top six. It's the nature of the English Championship. It's the most competitive division that I can think of. It's a very tough league, especially when you're just relegated and you've got to pick up the pieces. That would be my sensible and realistic appointment. But if Knutson would be number one if he wants the job. So yeah, there you go. A lot of suggestions in the chat. I'm seeing so many names flying. I'm seeing a lot of people saying McKenna is the ideal appointment. I'm obviously seeing a lot of Ange Postecoglou shouts as well. Seeing people obviously talking about Knutson being one of the ones that they would want to bring in. Big thank you to Dan McGill with the $10. What a legend. Thank you. I appreciate that, brother. I'll say this. Any sane Celtic fan would respect Brendan for walking away. He deserves our best wishes given the era of success he's given us. Dermot Desmond's statement once again shows zero accountability. Can't disagree with any of it. I appreciate your point, Dan, and I appreciate your donation. You're a legend, and I agree with every part of that. Once again, Rodgers doing something that Neil Lennon never ever did. And I'm sure some people will be, very critical of Brendan Rodgers and what we've seen these last few weeks at Celtic. But I think that there has to be a mark of respect given for going before it got worse and before dragging us too far into a season where the damage might have been irreversible. And that's what people wanted, and they got it. So, that'll be the case. Ryan, McKenna got promoted and relegated with a championship team. That reminds me of someone. He got back-to-back promotions, didn't he? Won League One, went up in the championship, went to the Premier League and played some very, very good football with the very limited resources that he had. Listen, a lot of managers are going to draw similarities with people. If we want to play this is what I don't think Celtic are in a situation where we have spectacular candidates all round. You need to, let me just make something clear about any candidate. We can pick and choose the positives and the negatives. And I'm going to do a video on Thursday highlighting my top 5 choices. And I'm going to be brutally on. Oh, Martin O'Neill's on. Martin O'Neill's on. He's here. I think that might be us. I think the presser's finished.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Done, ladies and gentlemen. We've heard everything from Martin and Sean. The presser has finished up. That is that for the press conference. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here for the next wee while. We've got a lot to dissect. I've taken notes throughout that entire press conference, and I'm going to try and dance over things. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions, a lot of points. There's a lot of chat going on in the background as well whilst that press conference was going on. So thank you for your patience where you've basically sat there and watched me in silence. Over 1,000 of you sitting there waiting, which is absolutely crazy. You must have been bored at your bangers. But listen, first things first. I think the thing that we need to say on top of everything else is that Martin O'Neill himself is an absolute iconic figure at this club, and I wish him all the success moving forward. However long this may turn out to be, he did stress this could be 2 days, it could be 2 weeks, it could be, we don't know, until they have a manager. Martin O'Neill deserves all of our backing. I would say that I've left that press conference with a little bit of a reservation over how much power and control that he'll actually have. But one thing that I will say, he is a class act. How can you not be drawn in by the man himself? He is absolutely brilliant. He is brilliant. It's Martin O'Neill, and yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to see him back at the club in any capacity. And when I get this opportunity. I don't think he is going to be the mainstay at Celtic. That is what I leave here with. It sounds like to me Sean Maloney is very much steering the way, and Martin O'Neill is there to kind of keep on top of things, face the media, and be the manager per se. Maloney is absolutely the head coach. There is no doubt about that, and I think he's basically confirmed that this afternoon, Martin O'Neill. So Martin O'Neill made a point twice in that press conference that he had 10 minutes to make up his mind. And at first I thought he might have been just tongue-in-cheek, having a little bit of a joke about it. But he did go on to say it twice throughout the press conference, that he had 10 minutes to make up his mind. What I take away from that is they probably had Sean Maloney in place and really wanted Martin O'Neill to come in and ease the blow, and to make it that there wasn't a full-on riot. I'm not going to beat around the bush. As much as I love Martin and I'm chuffed to see him back, this was always going to be a Maloney role, and O'Neill has been used as a shield. That's what that is, ladies and gents. And if you couldn't read that from that press conference, I mean, there was literally a line where he talked about how will the team play. Will you come in and immediately change how the team plays? And Martin O'Neill's exact response was that I will look to Sean. He knows the players better than me. He knows the situation better than me. Sean is very much the one. He's the one that's also taken training today, and that is that. So, you know, I've got no issues with that per se, because they aren't going to be. And Sean Maloney has also reiterated the point: he is nowhere near Celtic manager material. He had basically his own words, and has no intentions of becoming the permanent Celtic manager. So to ease any of the concerns, yes, I think Martin O'Neill has been used as a shield to deflect from any of the inevitable abuse that Maloney and Celtic would have got. But Sean Maloney has also made it very, very clear that we have no. Maloney has no intentions of being the next Celtic manager and will not be the next Celtic manager. So I don't think we need to worry too much. This is all on an interim base. Every part of this is interim. And I know that people are nervous. I know people are anxious in case things turn around and change and we end up with Maloney as our manager or anything like that. But I think it was made clear that won't happen. The line that Nathan has brought up there saying that Sean was hoping to have me here for a month, it did seem tongue-in-cheek, but I also think that there was a little bit in that. So let me just run through the press conference as I have taken minutes of everything that was said, right? And I'm going to dance through it before we come back to the chat. I want to get through this uninterrupted and to reiterate all the important points that I thought were brought up at this press conference. I don't think it was a blockbuster press conference by any stretch. I don't think anything was said that was truly like, oh God, this is an insight to the situation. However, there has been some things cleared up. So first of all, Martin O'Neill reiterating the point that one of the problems right now that is everybody's not going in the same direction, and he wants to change that. And ultimately, we need to start winning football matches, which is of course the your bread and butter, your end all be all. It is all about winning football matches, and I think that Martin O'Neill is stressing an importance on that. He was asked about the situation with Rodgers and Desmond, and basically said that he can't comment on that. He doesn't have the details of that situation. It isn't his situation to talk about, and that was all. He did comment on his past relationship with Dermot Desmond as well, but didn't go too much into it, just saying basically he can't comment on what happened with Rodgers and Desmond. He does not want the job full time, and this could last any period of time. This could last anything between 2 days. He made a joke that if we don't win tomorrow night, it could be somebody else sitting there in the press conference on Thursday or Friday. But he does not want the job permanently. Maloney wanted him around for a month, but Celtic, and this was once again, he's stressed this. This is the second time he's brought this up today. He brought it up on TalkSport, and he brought it out again today. Young manager with a good CV. That was his exact words. And the fact he's used that twice now in a very public space, both on radio, national radio, and also now at a Celtic press conference. Hello, Buick. Good to see you as always. The fact that he has now used that line twice, I am almost convinced that we are going to be going for a younger coach. And when I say younger, I don't mean, fucking 32, 35, even 40. I just mean somebody who is maybe in the younger bracket. But listen, I am not wanting to go too far with speculation on that line, because things can change very, very quickly, and I don't think that Martin will probably have the full picture of things either. Maloney was asked about his... Thank you, Baldy Prick, by the way. Maloney was asked about his relationship with Brendan Rodgers, and he had nothing but good things to say. Relationship with Rodgers was very positive. Obviously Rodgers brought him in first as a coach earlier in his career, called him a brilliant coach. He said the training ground mood has been lower, but it's still good, and it's natural, part and part with football in this day and age. Difficult day to day, of course, with the amount of change that's going on, but nothing that is vastly different from any other situation that you would have when a team is not winning games. Maloney did take training. That was stressed. Sean Maloney took training today. There was a very quick turnaround, and he had to kind of separate both sides of what's going on, the football that's going on and the situation off the park. Thank you to Pat as well for the €2. Appreciate it, man. Nowhere near this. He stressed it. This is the big line that I think people will be wanting to hear. Sean Maloney himself has stressed he is nowhere near ready for something as big as the Celtic job, and I think he has essentially clarified he will not be in the running for the Celtic job. He will not be. That is the only thing that I could take from that. And I'm seeing the chat. I'm seeing Big Dom in the chat saying if Maloney does win the next 5 games, why wouldn't he get the job? Because that's not how we should be working. And if it is how we work, then we deserve to be going down to Celtic Park and making our voices made very, very clear. But it sounds like he knows himself that he's probably nowhere near that job just now. Sean Maloney then passed it back over to Martin O'Neill, talking about dishing out instructions, and it did all feel very tongue-in-cheek. However, I must reiterate, I am firmly of the belief that a lot of these instructions and a lot of what we're going to see footballing-wise on the park is going to be down to Sean Maloney rather than Martin O'Neill. I think Martin O'Neill will have a big job at trying to lift the spirits and trying to encourage the players. Tactically, it all feels very much like Sean Maloney is going to be the one that's running things. He has more experience with this current crop of players. He has obviously been relied upon and taken training today, which was stressed. And O'Neill, I think there was a line in there that Martin O'Neill used that he will not be the one dishing out instructions. So that seems to be what's flying just now. No reservations and enjoying it. He wants to enjoy it. He said that it was hard to enjoy it the first time because it was also very serious. So this time round, he wants to enjoy it and had, obviously, as I said, 10 minutes to make up his mind. I'll quickly fire through the second half of the press conference. He stands by Martin O'Neill. So a big point that was brought up was obviously what Martin O'Neill said on national radio a couple of days ago, where he said, and his exact words were along the lines of, this Celtic team is mince and Hearts will win the league. He stands by everything what he says. He reiterated that. He does not hide behind anything. He did make the point that maybe he wouldn't have said it if he knew that 24 hours later he would have been the Celtic manager, but he stands by his words. I think I agree with what Nathan says in the chat there. It's very hard to tell what is tongue-in-cheek and what is actually serious because he's a very sarcastic guy, Martin O'Neill. But I think that is, he made it clear. He stands by those points. He was asked about physicality in the Celtic team, and he actually used a very interesting line where he thinks there's I think it was along the lines of not a lot of men in this team and hasn't been for a long time. I think obviously alluding to the youth that is relied upon in Celtic teams nowadays, our signing model to go out and sign young. I think he's got a very good point about the physicality at Celtic. I think that we have no choice. This is this is what Martin O'Neill was hounded for in his last job that he had, that he was essentially very Jurassic in his ways and maybe a bit of a dinosaur. Celtic's signing model isn't going to change. It's always going to be sign younger and go on, but I think he's got a very valid point about the lack of physicality in this team, and he was asked if he could bring that in, but obviously there is so much he could do. He brought up Munich. He talked about how we were on the cusp of something very, very special there, and obviously it didn't happen. Number of chances within the team has to improve. We need better chances and more chances in the side, and he reiterates that the team is a good side. But he's really looking forward to working with it, but he needs to get it back to the Munich levels. Nice to have winners in the squad, probably alluding to the likes of Callum McGregor. He also said there's a lot of players in that team who aren't winners, and I think he was maybe alluding to the likes of Dane Murray, Colby Donovan, who haven't been at that level of football yet. And the game tomorrow night is most important to him. He's not looking at Sunday just yet. Tomorrow night is more important against Falkirk. He was asked about Mark Fotheringham and the appointment of Fozzie, where he was very confused at first. I thought he was genuinely confused as to whether or not Mark Fotheringham was in a job, but he did clarify he was aware of that. But he hasn't actually met with him yet. He hasn't seen him. He just knows that is a decision that's been taken. Met up with him 7 weeks ago, hasn't seen him today, and that'll all need sorting out, and he said he's going to sort Fozzie out. John Kennedy was touched upon, and this was one of the most interesting takeaways from the press conference for me, especially somebody who likes to read between the lines. He was asked about John Kennedy and wished him well, first of all, spoke about his history with John as a young player and of course the injury that kind of derailed his footballing career, but he said he hasn't spoke to John yet. And this was the interesting line for me if you had your ears open and you were listening. John Kennedy left before Martin O'Neill was phoned yesterday. That was said. He said that John was already gone before Martin was here. So this kind of gives you a timeline of events. It probably feels like it was yesterday afternoon Rodgers handed in his resignation, and I assume that Rodgers and Kennedy were both in conjunction there, and both decided they were doing the same thing, because by the sounds of it, Martin O'Neill has reiterated the point that John wasn't there when he took that role. So John was already gone. I think that John's allegiance and his loyalty lay with Brendan Rodgers, and he's made that, and I think we all kind of took that assumption last night when the first article came out about John Kennedy's departure, but he reiterated the point that John wasn't there. Sean Maloney also commented on the departure of John Kennedy, and he says he will be missed, and now senior players will need to be relied upon. So Martin won't stay in any capacity, or at least he doesn't think so, beyond this tenure, but he is absolutely buzzing by the sounds of it and is dying to get tore in. No immediate talk on recruitment. It's too early for that. It doesn't seem like, as of yet, Martin O'Neill or Sean Maloney will have any sort of involvement with recruitment, or at least according to them. Maloney seems very much tactically in charge. And then finally, the last point that kind of came away from all of it in my minutes of the press conference is that Martin O'Neill will have no input as to who the next Celtic manager is. He said years ago his ego would have probably took him down a route where he would have wanted to have input on that situation and would have wanted to be involved in that situation, but a lot of points were brought up. Like we were literally talking about it before Martin O'Neill took centre stage. Will he have any say in the situation? And he has reiterated that it doesn't look as though he will have any input into suggesting who the next manager of Celtic Football Club should be. So that is my rundown of what was said at the press conference this afternoon. It is the first time that we have heard since from Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney since the resignation of Brendan Rodgers and the subsequent appointment of Martin O'Neill on a temporary basis. And yeah, that's where we are right now. So some questions answered, a lot of questions still to be answered, in particular to do with the breakdown in relationship between Brendan Rodgers and Dermot Desmond, but that is probably something for another day. And now we look forward to tomorrow night's game, where Martin O'Neill will take charge at Celtic Park, or should I say Sean Maloney will take charge at Celtic Park. So I hope this all goes well. I hope it steadies the ship until a permanent decision has been made. There's been a lot of talk today about Kieran McKenna, who obviously I kind of hold it out for. I want as the next Celtic manager. But Martin O'Neill is back. Thank you, Paul, for being a member for 11 months. Celtic have now started over the past half hour sharing their first images of Martin O'Neill back at Celtic. And there you go on screen now. Martin O'Neill with the Celtic jersey. 20 years on from the departure of Martin O'Neill when he left Celtic all those years ago. So he is back. He has done his first press conference, and we have a little bit more clarification on everything that's happening at the club right about now. So let's get chatting for a wee while, shall we, about what we've heard this afternoon and what comes next. Of course, Martin O'Neill, welcome to Celtic Park this afternoon. And obviously there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of rumours flying about who is going to be manager and what's going to happen. Listen, I want to go back to, for a moment, I'd like to go back to the appointment of Ange Postecoglou a few years ago. And we took over 100 days to appoint a manager, and there was a lot of ups and downs, and it looked very close at one point to being Eddie Howe, and then it wasn't Eddie Howe. I think that this is something that we're going to have to be patient, and I know that people are desperate for answers and desperate for clarification as quickly as they can possibly get it. But until we get real statements and real words from Celtic themselves, everything is speculation and everything can change at the drop of a hat. You might be seeing articles right now about how Kieran McKenna is looking like the favourite. Tomorrow, Kieran McKenna could be so distanced from the Celtic job, there is no point in hanging your hat on anybody right now. So, yeah, there's got to be so much that happens. Let's get into the chat. And of course, if we want to talk about the press conference, we'll keep the press conference going. I'd still wonder if my biggest takeaway from that press conference this afternoon is that if Martin O'Neill, and obviously his mind was made up as soon as the phone call was made apparently, but you know, if he didn't answer in that 10 minutes he's talking about, what would have happened? Would it have just been Sean Maloney they pushed out there, or would they have looked for another shield? Because that's clearly what they've done here with Martin. So, I mean, what shield could they have used? Because it's not as if they could have turned to Neil Lennon again. But I guess we don't need to worry about that because it didn't happen. Do I think Celtic will contact Ange? I think so. I think it's only natural they contact Ange. Whether Ange is interested or not, I think is the big deal breaker when it comes to him. Let's get your points in. We'll try and keep things focused on what Martin said today, but there's obviously a lot of conversation surrounding the future and the manager and whatever happens. Let's go and have a look at the current bookies' favourites, shall we? Let's go and have a look. According to Bet365, Kieran McKenna is now the favourite. Kieran McKenna is currently favourite for the job at 7-4. Ange Postecoglou in at second, Robbie Keane. Sean Maloney still at 8-1 and Martin O'Neill at 9-1, even though they both basically clarified that they don't fancy the job. Then Knutson at 10-1, Rosa at 14-1, Wilfred Nancy at 16-1, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Michael Carrick both also at 16-1. That is the current manager odds. As I said, I am a Kieran McKenna guy, and I want Kieran McKenna in, but we'll come back to that. This is the entire list of names that Bet365 are offering, including the ones that are Mark Wilson 33-1, worth a quid. Yeah, this is the kind of entire list as it currently stands. You know, the likes of Southgate in there. Kevin Muscat 25-1 after everything that happened at Rangers over the past wee while. Listen, I'll come back to all of this. I'll come back to managers. I want to talk a bit more what happened today before we get dragged into managerial conversations. Because the whole point in this stream was to talk about Martin O'Neill's press conference and what was going on there this afternoon. So let's talk about a few of those things, shall we? Sean Maloney, Martin O'Neill. Now we just need Larson. God, I don't get the gang back together. Did he get dun 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 dun. Let's see. I see a lot of people asking why my exact reasons for McKenna. I will come at that in this stream if you want. I was saving that for my video on Thursday, but we'll get on to that at some point. I do want to kind of talk about what happened at the press conference, what was said at the press conference. What's the spell on Rodgers and the board? There was no further updates, just to clarify everything that was said at the press conference this afternoon in relation to Brendan Rodgers and the falling out with the board and his subsequent departure. I've used that word a few times. I'd hate doing that, but and his immediate departure. Martin O'Neill did not comment on it. He didn't have any comments for it, and neither he would. If anybody thought that Martin O'Neill was going to have anything to say on that today, you're after nut. It was never ever going to happen. So there was no comment on the breakdown in relationship between the board and Brendan Rodgers. Thank you to Bill Scotland for the donation. Mo is meant to be a Bills fan. Give him the job. And that's. Do you know what's funny, Bill Scotland? I remember you telling me this, and when I googled Martin O'Neill's name earlier, it came up Martin O'Neill, Buffalo Bills. I was like, why did I say it? I was wondering why I'd searched that in the past. So listen, a big thing, I see a point about little, if any, European experience. Guys, a lot of the managers that we're going to get linked with in our lifetimes at Celtic are probably going to have very little European experience. I mean, Ange came here with no European experience. Like, these are things that you're just going to have to take with the managers we get linked with. We aren't in a position where we can attract fucking European Cup winners and guys that have had deep runs in European competition. It's very, very difficult. As I said earlier in the stream, I'll reiterate it now. If there was, and I don't think there's a chance, but if Knutson was available and wanted the Celtic job, he would be the candidate. Of course he would. He would be the candidate, but I just don't think he's there. Back to some talk about today, shall we? About everything that's been said. I'm still in shock about the Desmond character assassination and Rodgers. If you heard anything about Rodgers, no, I've not heard anything in regards to Rodgers releasing his own statement or doing his own sort of interview. I think that's just one of those moments that will drop. Like, it will just be a random moment where Rodgers, something will pop up on Twitter, and we'll have the Rodgers rebuttal to everything that was said about him. But as for now, I don't think anybody knows when that's coming. Apart from Brendan Rodgers himself. And, there is part of me that thinks that, Brendan Rodgers is probably like, is it even worth it? But I think it would be so worth it, and I really want Rodgers to come back out and say something. I can't believe Fozzie's here. We've not spoken enough about Fozzie. Has anybody ever seen the clip of him talking about his boys? It's fucking brilliant. And I can't find it for the life of me, but there was a clip one time he was doing a press conference like, guys, I have 3 wee boys, right? And see, when they go and touch a roasting hot cooker, they'll no do that again. They'll no touch that again. So basically what I'm saying is young players will make mistakes, but they learn from the mistakes. When they make them, they'll no make that mistake again. And I can't find it for the life of me. It's fucking brilliant. But always remember, with Fozzie at the helm, if you're not training with intensity, you'll not be in mid team. Guys, if you're doing 3 out of 5 days, you'll not be in mid team. You'll not be in mid team. God, there's a lot about Buffalo Bills and Martin O'Neill. I love that. That is, I mean, I'm an Eagles guy, obviously, but like this, it's quite funny. So we'll get back to it. Fozzie speaking the German. It's funny. Like I kind of tried to tell this story whilst they were talking about Fozzie at the press conference, but we went to Berlin a few years ago, and Felix Magath, who was manager, who Sean Maloney spoke about today, it was unwell, he was ill, and Mark Fotheringham was in interim charge for the day. So I've technically already seen Mark Fotheringham in his whole coaching abilities. One last Rodgers impression for old time's sake. Can't even remember how to do it now. He seems so distant in my mind. Oh, Dermot Desmond. Prick of a guy. I've not got it in me. I'm so sad about it. So, yeah, Martin O'Neill, he's here. I mean, can we believe it? That Martin O'Neill is managing Celtic in 2025? Who would have ever saw this coming? I put a point in our group chat this morning, and it was essentially along the lines of like 3 months in June. All we needed was like 5 quality first team signings. And in October, we have Martin O'Neill as manager of Celtic. What happened? What happened for us to be at a point where, like, I made the shopping list. I remember saying that, like, oh, we need this, we need that. And instead, what we got is Rodgers flying high and Martin O'Neill fucking back managing Celtic in 2025. I cannot believe that we're actually there, and here we are. Impression of Ange getting asked to manage Celtic. Nah, you're alright, mate. Nah, you're alright, mate. I've already dealt with enough pricks. Can't do an Ange, and I wouldn't even try. I just did try. Martin hasn't lost his humour. You're right. Very, very dry humour. Very sarcastic. I mean, I don't think I'll be. Can I just make one thing clear? There was fan media in the room today, and I know I've seen a couple of people asking, and I know people will ask, Ryan, why were you not there? Why were you not there representing the channel and the podcast, and why were you not there as part of fan media? I don't think I'll be invited back anytime soon, to be quite honest. I mean, if anybody watched my live stream last night from the club, I definitely won't be back at the club. In any time, in any of this current managerial capacity. I think we need to get a full new ownership group before I'm back at Celtic Park. And honestly, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care. I'm not bothered by that. Treat my way out to Celtic Park for one question because they treat us fan media like we're the fucking scum of the earth. I'll pass. Thanks very much. So we've got a point from the Jagged God who says, why are people thinking it's going to be Martin O'Neill footy? He said that Maloney will basically be picking the team, stepping stone for Sean Maloney into the dugout. I don't really agree with the last part. I don't think this is the very... And I don't want to be naive by any stretch, but I don't think this is going to lead to Maloney being Celtic manager anytime soon. However, I do, yes, agree with the first part. I don't think we're going to see anything that even remotely resembles what Martin O'Neill gave us in the early 2000s. I think that it's going to be a very different look from what we saw back then. And apparently Celtic have now released, is it an actual interview or is it just a press conference the club have released? Because if they've uploaded an interview, I will let you all go and watch it, and we'll jump off the air, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people will want to see what Martin O'Neill has to say. I've typed in Celtic FC to YouTube, and they've just uploaded. So they've uploaded the full press conference for anybody who's missed it, which is obviously what we've just listened to. I could see Maloney staying as a coach, 100%. I can see that. I think Maloney's going to step into being the new John Kennedy, to be quite honest. I'm still really gutted that John's gone. I'm not going to lie. I am really gutted that Kennedy is away. I think it was there was an argument to be made, and I think a very valid argument, that it was probably time for John to go. But just do you know what really upsets me? And I don't care what anybody says here. This really grinds my gears. It's now 20-5, the day following John Kennedy's resignation from Celtic, and there hasn't been one official acknowledgement by the club, and there hasn't been one thank you to John Kennedy. There hasn't been one thank you for 27 years of service. And I know a lot of people said last night, oh, they're just letting the dust settle, and they're just this, that, the next thing. It doesn't matter for me. I don't think they should be letting the dust settle. I think that John Kennedy and his 27 years of dedication to this football club and the sacrifices he made to remain at this football club should have been acknowledged almost instantly after the announcement of Brendan Rodgers' departure. I think it's absolutely bad taste and disrespectful by the club not to have said thank you, to be quite honest. But Martin O'Neill will take us to the Europa League final, guaranteed. I don't share that same notion. It must be said. I don't share that same notion at all. I'll stay live. Thank you, by the way, over 1,500 live viewers. Please get down below and hit that like button if you haven't already. There will be a lot of these live streams coming over the next few weeks. It feels like we're back in 2021, baby. Keep your questions coming. I'll be staying live until 10 to 5. 10 to 5 is when I'll be going off the air. So get your points in. Listen, it could be anything. We don't need to focus on that press conference anymore if I've only got about 10 minutes left of the stream. I want to have as much chat and as much conversation as I possibly can. So we'll keep going. It's not right that the club haven't showed their utmost respects to Kennedy. They really should pronto. Absolutely. I agree. I think that it's bonkers. I mean, I've said all I need to say on it, really. And I wish him the absolute best. Ryan 118 for next manager. Yeah, listen. Rodgers to Wolves. You never know. I think he'd be daft to take the Wolves job because I think they're a really poor side at the minute. But listen, if he fancies a challenge, absolutely. I clarified that, Mark, a minute ago. I used to get invited to the press conferences. I did not sign up to be invited this year. I rejected the opportunity. You get sent a form every year if you want to go. I didn't take it. I didn't want it. I think that if I'm being perfectly honest, I think it's a flawed system and not worth my time. So I don't get invited for that reason. I also feel like I'm definitely not going to be invited for the things that I've said about certain people this year either. So I don't expect to see me back there anytime soon for anybody asking, and I don't really care. You know, you're like 2020 Arsenal Fan TV. Channel does better the bigger the mess. Yep, that's it. You know, it's drama gets you views, doesn't it? I see. There's always a lot of chat teams like this. I seen somebody I think somebody pulled a Pax on for capitalising. This isn't something I wanted to dive into. Somebody brought up the point of capitalising on the club's mistakes or downfalls or whatever, or here to monetise it. I've done this for 10 years straight, and in that 10 years, I have seen very little dramas and very little downs. There's been a couple of years and a couple of moments where things have been shite. And if I was here to monetize and capitalise on the negatives, I wouldn't be here when things are going well. I'm here when it's a struggle to make some fucking money, when you're cruising the league in the middle of March. I'm never here to monetise on the downfall of this league. And there is people that have that opinion of fan media, and it's just a stupid opinion to have. I've supported Celtic my whole life. I'm a season ticket holder. I have loved this club for every part of my conscious lifetime, and I love it now. I don't take any joy in reporting on the situation that Celtic are in right now. It's incredibly painful. It's incredibly interesting, but I'm certainly not here to monetise it. See, if I was here to monetise it, I wouldn't have been here at the start of the season. I wouldn't have been here in March or January or February or anything like that. Nobody, listen, there might be people out there who are there for it, but I'm a genuine Celtic supporter and I love this club, hence why I'm so fucking passionate about it, you know. I'm just lucky I saw a gap in the market in 2016 for a lack of Celtic YouTubers. Hey, you know, and if I can make money off it, then so what? It's my job. It's my fucking job. Just like it's a journalist's job to write an article on it, or a presenter's job to talk about it. Thank you, Green Ninja, for the donation. I wasn't going to go tomorrow since it's my birthday, but I have to now. I think tomorrow will have the best atmosphere in years. I'm very conflicted and confused about how the atmosphere will feel in Celtic Park tomorrow. I think it could be very, very toxic, but at the same time, very, very supportive of Martin O'Neill. I think that is... I think that's a very interesting dynamic heading into the game, but I think that it will be mostly supportive tomorrow. I think it's a big game to attend. And once again, can I reiterate to people who weren't in the stream early, if you're going tomorrow, get yourself to Celtic Park at 7 o'clock. Get yourself outside the main stand and protest these bastards who are ruining Celtic Football Club. Get yourself down there at 7 o'clock. There is breaking news coming out as of now, by the way, in the last 4 minutes. The AGM date for Celtic has been confirmed. That is just dropped as I was about to go off air in the next 5 minutes. Now, see, there's a lot of questions about who I want for the job and who I want coming in next. And I'll try and get back. I'll add some more time onto the stream and round it up to be a little bit longer. We have confirmation by the Celtic Trust that the AGM has been confirmed for Friday the 21st of November, Celtic Park at 10:30 a.m. There has been resolutions put forward by the Celtic Trust. In a departure from normal practice, Celtic's company secretary did not confirm that the two resolutions had been accepted, and we have only become aware when the AGM was sent. Notice was sent today, thanks to those who signed the requisition forms. So there was a lot of stuff. If you're following on with what's happened at the Celtic Trust, there was a lot going on there about submitting resolutions. The AGM instructs the board to prepare a strategic review and published report with a football, financial and strategic plan. The plan should contain a clear, stated, strategic aim and measurable football and financial goals for the board to target. Remuneration should be linked to achieving those goals. That was one. And then another one about a place of no confidence on the current chief executive, chairman and chief financial officer of the club. But as said here, the company secretary has not confirmed that the two resolutions have been accepted, but there is a date and a time for that AGM. So all eyes on Friday, November 21st, which is under a month away now, of course. But all eyes on that in terms of an AGM date, 10:30, and obviously we'll have a lot of time. Listen, I think there has to be protests outside Celtic Park ahead of that AGM, to be quite honest, but we'll come to that close at the time. That is breaking news coming out over the past few minutes, and obviously very aptly timed with the departure of Brendan Rodgers yesterday. Let's finish off the stream with some questions. Let's get around 5 or 10 minutes of questions and points that you want me to go through. I'll need to change my picture from Brendan Rodgers when people donate. I know! It's heartbreaking, isn't it? It's absolutely fucking heartbreaking. So I've seen the point raised a few times about who my top 3 candidates are for the job as things stand. And I think my top 3 candidates in the realms of realism and what I think we can get. So I would have Knutson in there, but I don't think that he will be a candidate for the job. I don't think that he will be interested in the job, I should say. I think that my 3 would be Kieran McKenna, Ange Postecoglou, and for a third, let me go and look at the next Celtic manager odds very quickly and see who my third would be. I'm kind of all in on McKenna, to be quite honest. I'm going to do a video on this on Friday, but as things stand, Kieran McKenna is now 1-1. Oh, Jesus. Is something happening with Kieran McKenna? Like, well, I've been, I think for me, McKenna, Ange, and it would be Knutson. I don't think it will be. Honestly, there's not a lot of names outside those 3 that really, really interest me. So, honestly, and some people don't like the thought of this at all, but I don't think there's a lot of great options. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's my third right now, unless I would. Edin Terzic is another one that interests me. I would say he's definitely in a top 5. I have a top 2. It's McKenna or Ange. I don't like this is my third doesn't mean anything. Like my third means nothing. I think it's McKenna or Ange. For me, it's got to be one of the two. To be quite honest, I'm not all in on Marco Rosa, I should say. Good coach, but I think he's a little bit. I don't know. Listen, in the past. Living in the past a little bit. He's not really done much in a few years. I'm looking at that full list just now. I mean, Damien Duff is somebody who intrigues me, but feels very kind of Desmondy, if you get me. Not Brown, absolutely not Scott Brown. He's not ready for it yet. I want Brown to be Celtic manager one day, but not in 2025. No way. Listen, McKenna or Ange. It's one of the two of them for me, and I really want McKenna. This whole 12th in the championship thing, who cares if they're 12th in the championship? Can we not look at what he's done before this? He's done a remarkable job with them. He's been very highly touted by people at Manchester United for how good a coach he was when he was there as well. He's 12th just now. Hold on, give me a moment here. English Championship table. Obviously, currently 12th place. They're 3 points off the top 6. They're 3 points off the playoffs. They're 12th. Next week, they've got a game in hand. If they win their next game, they're into the playoffs. The championship is like, I'm not saying quality-wise it's the best. It's the most competitive league in the world. It is so crazy. McKenna plays a nice brand of attacking, structured football that I think is... I don't think it's far with the right utilities at being a top team when he's been in the championship is nice, attractive football. A very disciplined coach as well. I just really like him. I have for a lot. I've been a long time admirer of Kieran McKenna. You know, from everything I heard about him at Manchester United all those years ago, and yeah, listen, it doesn't need to be everybody's top candidate. It's just mine. I'm not appointing the manager. Can we see? Do you know what is the funniest thing? I think, like, when I do what I do, and it was the same when Ange came in, and when Rodgers came back, and when Rodgers left the first time, and you know, I come on here and go, I quite fancy such and such. I fancy him, and people go, oh, that's that. I'm like, well, lucky for you, I'm not making the decision. You know, it's just who I fancy. You know, that's who I want for the job. Good recruitment is another good point for me. Finn. He recruited well. Look, this is a guy that went from League One into the Championship and got back-to-back promotions because he was very, very clever in his model of recruitment and what he does in terms of making players better as well. I think that you're looking at somebody that would fit the mould of Celtic very nicely. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I see people asked about his nationality. He's not Scottish. He's Irish-English, I believe. I think he's Irish-English. I don't know who he represented as a player right enough. Let me go and look at that just now. I don't know who he represented. Kieran McKenna. He played for Northern Ireland at international level, but he is English born. So yeah, you're looking at Irish-English, which is not a normal thing to say, but it's, you know, that's all I can say. He was raised in Vermont, so Vermont and Tyrone, as the chant goes. Yeah, I really like the thought of McKenna. I want him. I want him bad. I want him bad. That's my guy. I'm all in on him. I'm all in on him. I'm getting told by Oren that he's a North of Ireland Catholic. Yes! I'm joking. I'm joking. Nah, I'm all in, and there seems to be a lot of chat going on behind the scenes. I wonder if they've been watching my videos for the last fucking 6 months. When I've been saying it for months, you know, when Rodgers goes, I want McKenna. Rodgers goes, I want McKenna. When Rodgers leaves at the end of his contract, I want McKenna. I've been on that train for a long time. I will give the same levels of propaganda that I gave for Brendan Rodgers. I hope you all know that. Right, anyway, Martin O'Neill's done his first press conference. I'm going to head off to get my dinner because it's 5 to 5 and I'm fucking starving. So there might be another video tonight. Who knows? Just keep listen. If you haven't, go down below, hit that notification bell. Make sure you do that because that would be massive for me. We'll see you the next time we're on when there's some big news to